Hello, hello, hello. Hey everyone, welcome to the live broadcast. I am Angel Radcliffe. I have some special guests that are joining to have this conversation on government contracting today. So, with us, we do have Teray Holmes and Shana Scott.
Hi.
I'm going to turn it over to Shana to give us a brief background on her and what she does. So, I did have her as a guest on the podcast, Milestones, Money, and Motivation, to discuss government contracting and how you can propel your business. So, a lot of gems were dropped. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the episode, definitely go and check it out. So, Shana, hi. Thanks so much for joining us again.
I know, right? I felt like this just happened. But thank you so much, Angel, for having me. Like you said, Shana Scott, I was on, I think that was episode 3 of the podcast, talking about my business, Consult with Shana, and the opportunities that I have working with small businesses to really expand their platform through grants, government contracting, the procurement process, and really just ways to create additional streams and additional revenue if you have a business that is launched or even a nonprofit. The grant writing opportunities for nonprofits are expansive. And so I would love to be able to continue that conversation to, give a little bit more juice, but like Angel said, not too many details about how to go about doing that process.
Thank you so much. Teray, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you, Angel?
I'm good. So, of course, Teray's a resident guest.
Resident guest, resident co-guest, co-moderator.
So, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself and give a background of what you do as well?
Awesome. So my name is Teray Holmes. I'm a real estate specialist. I am licensed in the state of Maryland, but my team and I work with clients DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And then we also work with investors. So those who already own homes who want to expand their investment portfolio. We work with them all over the U.S. I have a background in business. So Angel and I are co-authors of a book called Upfront, an Entrepreneur's Quick Start Guide, which is shameless plug. It's about right there. And I also, so I have a background in business. And I've done business consulting for small business owners, working really with brand strategy and marketing. And this is sort of my sweet spot. I just love conversations around business, helping entrepreneurs to advance and to learn and to grow their businesses. And I love having these conversations with Angel in particular, because we sort of dive into all sorts of goodies. She teaches me so much. And so really grateful to be here and happy to have this conversation and be your co-moderator today.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to have this conversation as well. So for people who are listening and they're not familiar with government contracts or what that is, Shana, how about you just break down a simple definition for us?
Yeah. On the podcast I had talked, I talk a lot, but I had talked about the different buckets and the different umbrellas. But you can do business with the government from many different levels, from your local government, so your city, your county, to your state government, and all the way up to the federal government. I think a lot of people, when they talk about doing business with the government, they're automatically either gravitated towards the federal government or think about the federal government. But your local city, your county, your town, they have dollars that they need to spend, and they have services that they need to provide, or they need services provided to them. And so the government procurement process, want to use the right terminology. The procurement process is the process by which a business, small business, medium business, large business can engage with the government to complete a bid, and then they receive that contract to do the work. So people always say, I'm doing a government contract, but it's really the procurement process. And once you are approved to procure, which is to do work, do business with the government, then you get a contract. As well as the government also, they may have something that they need. They might need laptops, or they might need lawn services, if there's like the courthouse or city hall or something like that. And so they may put out requests and say, we need to have this service take care of. We need these laptops. are there businesses that are in our state or neighboring state that can do this work for us?
Shana, you've already expanded, broadened my horizon.
Okay, in what way?
So when you talk about the fact that you can do business with them on the city level, local level, people, state level, right? I don't think we often think about that. I think most people go straight to federal government,
Straight to the
straight to the top. And so my eyes just were like, ooh,
yeah, right. And
know?
you're in DC, right? So DC, technically not a state. And so how DC has to, has to do business. They have a lot of work that they need to do. Every city, every county, and the bigger state, the more opportunities, right? In a place like Texas, where there are so many counties and so many municipalities, the opportunity to do business is there with every single county and every single municipality. So let's say in Texas, Houston is the city, and then the county, what is that? What is the county? It starts with a H, I can't remember. But the county that Houston's also in, that's 2 opportunities to do business right there, without even doing business with the state of Texas itself. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so I'm actually outside of DC. I'm actually in Maryland.
Right.
And so Maryland has all these different counties, but then DC is right in my backyard, and Virginia is right in my backyard.
And Virginia, right?
Absolutely. So this is, so I'm really excited I'm so happy that Angel decided to have this conversation and that I could be a part of it, because I'm going to help the audience pick your brain.
So perfect example. I'm glad that you brought that up where you're situated, right? Because DC is right there in the middle. Then Maryland is a little bit north. Virginia is a little bit south of DC. So you have 3 opportunities right there with the state alone. And so if any business owner that's a part of this, that's in DC, you can register your business to now do business with the state of Maryland, with the District of Columbia, with the state of Virginia, as well as if you're in Northern Virginia, right? Now you're doing business with Alexandria and whatever else that county. So there are so many different opportunities. And to set that up, it doesn't cost anything. All of these government localities, municipalities, they have portals. You go, you register, you put in your NAICS code, your NAICS code, which is what you did when you started your business anyway. And you start getting those emails, and they'll say, we need HVAC work, we need lawn service. If that's the code that is assigned to your business, they're going to funnel those to you daily.
Wow. Angel, you know all the good people.
I'm so excited I had the opportunity to connect with Shana and meet her and have her on the podcast, because she was just such a wealth of information. I was like, she was dropping gem after gem after gem. And I was like, okay, this is too much. Like, we're giving away too much free information.
Right. I had one of my girlfriends call me after she listened to the podcast. She was like, you got me thinking, and she does like wellness stuff. She was like, you got me thinking I can do a contract with the government. I was like, you can. You can do a workshop. Like the health department may need someone to come in and do a wellness event. Anyone can take advantage of this opportunity.
So Shana, my question for you, and Angel, please let me know when I'm talking too much.
Me too. Let me know too.
Yes. So my question to you, Shana, is that do you have to wait to be called upon, like once you've registered, or can you solicit?
No, you don't have to. Well, it depends.
Mm-hmm.
So, they are constantly it's a revolving door of information that they may need the services for, right? And so if it's HVAC or something like that, lawn service, a city may have something and they'll automatically send it to you. There is a sort of a no solicitation clause, but depending on what you offer, they may automatically just reach out and say, hey, you're in our system. We see that you do logistics. Can you get us 1,000 computers? Without them even posting that.
Wow.
And I'm using that as an example because I had a client that I'm working with. He got the email. He was like, are they asking me to buy these computers? I'm like, nah, they're asking you to get them these computers. So
wait a minute, hold on. What does that mean?
So a government entity, this business is registered.
Right.
His code is around logistics and, shipping and all of that. And they reached out to him and say, hey, we need 1,000 computers for this agency. Does your business offer this service? Here's the paperwork. Fill it out, send it back. How much will you charge us for these computers?
So even if he doesn't sell computers, he can go and buy them perhaps at a discount.
He could have. Yeah. Yeah, because his code is all about logistics. So if you do logistics,
girl,
figure it out and make it happen.
I think Teray is over there taking notes.
I'm done with this conversation. You didn't told me enough.
All right. Nice meeting you guys.
All right, guys. See ya.
So there's so much. I remember, Teray, you and I have had this conversation about government contracts. And so I've been preparing my business to actually go into government contracting.
Okay.
And Shana, you and I had the financial conversation because some of those contracts, you need to be able to have that capital up front to actually run this contract. And then you're being paid net 30, net 60. So Teray, if you remember a few years ago when I said, this is what I want to do. And then, okay, how am I going to get the money? Let me start building my business credit. Yes.
And working
we had this whole conversation, but when I looked in the database, there were so many contracts. There were contracts for the different armed forces and what do you call it? The reserves. They were looking for books. They were looking for speakers to host workshops. I was like, what? Are you kidding
And again, that's only the federal government. If I were to register with the state of Texas and first of all, Texas is so big, my email will probably be overwhelmed with what all they have. But in Georgia, I'll give you an example. In Georgia, I have another business with 2 other individuals. And so that's what we do. We do the bids, the government contracting. And one of my experts, she's an evaluator. And there's a school system in Georgia looking for an evaluation. So it can be anything. It doesn't have to be like goods or, project management services. It can be evaluation. COVID is huge right now. Every municipality across the country is doing some sort of survey data collection around COVID right now. And they're looking for businesses that can do this work to help them with that process. And I know that for a fact because I've applied for 3.
Teray is over there like, what?
I can't believe it's the things that you don't know that hurt you the most. It's the things you don't know that keep you behind. And unfortunately, too many people just don't have access to this type of information. And either you read about it or you sit on a podcast and you listen to it but that's not information that's readily available to people. And even myself, knowing about government contracting for years, never ever thought about it, that it existed in so many different ways: county, city, state, federal. Like, never thought about it like that. And even though I've gone on websites, when I lived in Chicago, I remember I put in a bid with the city of Chicago. When I lived in Cleveland, I put in a bid with the city of Cleveland. And so I've done it, but never really even processed what I was doing.
Right.
All of these different agencies exist and they need all of. So my question is, and Angel sort of tapped on it, and Shana, I think you mentioned it. So is there a database that you can go to that would have like all of these different opportunities? So Angel, when you were saying that you went somewhere and you saw that they had bids for speaking and bids for books and all of that, what municipality was that? Was that city? Was that state? Was that federal? What was that?
No, that was federal. So the federal database. So the sam.gov. And there's so many other lists that you can actually sign up for. I'm sure Shauna's the expert here, so she can tell us about all of those lists.
Yeah. Yes. So there are so many lists, right? And you can do it the hard way or you can do it the easy way. And I wouldn't say the hard way in a negative, because I sort of do it the hard way sometimes. If you just want to start small and stay in your locality, meaning your state, and not venture out to other states, your state will have on that same website where you went to register your business when you first started, that is also the same website where the information will be. So most likely it's the Secretary of State in your for your state. That website also houses the procurement. So like for the state of Georgia, it's Georgia Procurement, or you can search Texas Procurement, Illinois Procurement, etc. And so what will be there on that website is every single county or city in your state that has an open bid right now. And bids are open typically for 30 days, depending on what the opportunity is. Could be 60 days, could be 90 days. But for the most part, most bids at the state and local level are open for 30 days.
So are we looking at, so if we look at state, then state will cover city, county, everything.
Right. The states will have all of everything within the state.
Gotcha.
As one portal. Some municipalities within the states, they might not send everything to that portal. So if you have really large cities in your state that are, large metropolitan areas, they may also have their own. Like the city of Atlanta, they have their own. So they're not messing with the state system. Dallas may have their own. Houston may have their own. Baltimore City may have their own.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's from like your own state perspective. However, there is a website called Bidnet Direct, B-I-D, net, N-E-T, direct, direct.com. And Bidnet Direct is the holy grail in that it has every single state, city, everything. It's all there. So you can register with Bidnet Direct for free, and you will get the basics, which is just, here are the bids, this is what's open, you can filter, you can search, etc. However, in order to apply, you do need to pay for the next tier. Or you can go back to your county or your city and look at their website and pull it from there. Some cities have started to move where they only post on Bidnet Direct. So they might post it on theirs and then it'll link back to Bidnet Direct. So you still have to pay that fee, because it's a business, they're trying to make money. So like from what I've seen, a lot of the West Coast states like Colorado, etc., you have to go through Bidnet Direct. But if you know the workaround, there's a workaround. There's always a workaround.
Awesome.
So that's the state perspective. And then as Angel mentioned, federal, I hadn't even touched on federal. There are all of those federal agencies, right? The federal government has grants.gov, which has the grant opportunities, but also sam.gov has the bids as well. And it's a more complicated process on the federal level to be able to apply and see the procurement, but it exists as well.
And so, Shana, I do want to talk about the financials because, of course, I'm a financial person.
Right.
And so many people who are looking to add another revenue stream to their business, they always think about like government contracting. They think that it's just a sure thing. And it's not always a sure thing because your business won't be selected. I don't want to throw out negativity, but you have to go through that process of actually bidding against other companies and actually waiting for your business to be selected. Right. But also, I know the government looks at maybe your past performance. Are there any tips that you can give people who are trying to get into contracting, but they have zero experience with contracting?
That's a great question.
So I think I had said this on the podcast, right? It's sort of like when you're applying for a job and they ask you to have all of this experience. You're like, well, I'm trying to get the job so I can get the experience. The government contracting game is the same thing because they, not all, but most often, especially on the federal level, they do ask for past experience or they ask for references. So I would say that if you already have an established business and you're doing something on the state or local level and they ask for references, you can use examples from what you did in your previous employment or have references from other businesses that you have worked with to help with the workaround for past performance. Sometimes they do call the references depending on how far you make it it's really just like a job interview. Depending on how far you make it in the process, sometimes they just look to see if this is an existing business, etc. On the federal level, you need to have what's called a capability statement. And the capability statement is just a one-pager document, again, sort of like a resume, where they say you need to have a one-page document for a resume. And the capability statement is laying you out on paper. Who are you? When did your business start? What's your DUNS number? What you can list your past performance there, and where you intend for your business to go. So that's looked at a lot on the federal level, depending on what area, especially in logistics. They really, really pay attention to that capability statement, but some other opportunities, not so much. So I would say use other businesses, use past things that you've done at your previous companies. If you work for Verizon, put that on your capability statement. As an individual, you can do that to do the workaround for past performance.
And I want to chime in with just the small amount of information that I know about government contracting, subcontracting. So that's also a way to really get the experience and add on to your capability statement as far as, so let's say if my business takes on a landscaping contract, I don't do landscaping, but someone else may do landscaping, and now they're looking to actually get a government contract. They want to say, hey, I did work for this company, ABC company. They can take my contract, or I can sub it out to them. It's almost how employers will hire someone through a referral service or through a recruiter. And look, Teray, you're on mute. So
Teray's like, no.
What? Okay, so you're saying that even if you listen, because we're using landscaping. So even if you're not a landscaper, you're saying you can get that contract?
Oh, go ahead, Shana.
You could. So if that is, it has to be in your lane though. Like I don't want people to go out here to just start creating things that's not in their lane, right? So if that is in your lane and your business is registered to do that, and you want to get that government contract, but you have no past performance, yes. But I personally would not help someone walk through that application to do HVAC. Like that's not you.
No,
like, yeah.
No, but that's what I wanted the audience to understand, and that's what I wanted to understand. That if it's in your lane, it may not be something that you directly do, but it's within your lane, and that's why they sent it to you in the first place. If we're saying, it was sent to you, and so that you can then subcontract it out.
If you win.
If you win. Oh,
yeah, if you win. Because that's the thing, right? The reviewers are going to see through that once they get the application, because this is a process, right? As Angel said, it's not like super cut and dry like this. You'll see the bid sometimes, like one that I'm working on right now wanted 6 hard copy applications plus a flash drive. You might see that and be so intimidated by the application that you're just like, I'm not doing this. And so it takes some gumption and some like willpower to even go ahead and put the application in, because it's a lot that entails. Some of them ask for you to have, X number of dollars in insurance. You might not have to have it up front, but if you get awarded, they want proof of that insurance. So, it's simple. And once you get in, like it's going to come like that. But to get that first one can be a little daunting sometimes.
Wonderful. And hello, Celeste. Hello to our viewers who have come in and chimed in. And if you're watching the replay, please leave us some comments, ask questions.
Yes.
So and if you have questions right now, please ask us questions. I think we'll be on for another 28 minutes till 7:30, Angel?
Yeah, so another 20 something minutes or so. And I want to go through some of the comments. So someone did say, definitely blew my mind talking about the procurement services. So I mean, it's just something people don't know about. And again, as Teray mentioned, when we don't know the information, it hinders us. I think this goes back to the basics of finance and the things that I teach. And when we look at, I don't like to make things a race issue, but let's just look at our community. Let's look at the African American community and how far people are behind. And they're behind because they don't have access to the information. And then people who do have access to the information are sometimes less willing to share. And so, Shana, I'm so glad that you're willing to drop gems and speak about this and really how people can step up and propel their business and move forward and generate another revenue stream, add on to their current revenue stream, or just do something different.
I was going to say, I think not to make it a race issue, but like if you look at certain industries and who some of the leaders are when it comes to, not leaders, but like lead-in businesses when it comes to government contracts, race does sort of play a role into it sometimes. You can track and see like in trucking, in aerospace is a big one. Defense contracts are huge, right? Like these are the companies that are sending civilians overseas. If you look at the face of those companies, it's not us. And so we don't have to make it a race issue, but what you don't know.
Absolutely. And I think it's like I said before, I think it's a matter of access, right? Although race plays a part, I think it's also really important that we place ourselves in rooms where conversations are being had and where we get access to people who have this information. So this is a room right now. Right? And so you have access to this room to gain this information. But, like I always tell people, what Angel was saying earlier about the whole subcontracting thing, sometimes it's not about whether or not you can gain access. You may know someone of the other persuasion who can get you access, where you can co-partner and you can get that experience and you can subcontract or, so sometimes we have to really leverage our relationships. We don't always leverage our networks and leverage our relationships in order to get get access to some of these opportunities.
Right. And when we look at the number of businesses that African Americans own in this country, it's 2%. 2% of African Americans own small businesses in this country. And then let's talk about capital, which is, we can have a whole conversation on capital, access to capital. There's so many people who start a business, they're bootstrapping, they're using the money that they're making from corporate, they're taking out a loan. They don't have access to capital, whereas we look at other races or we look at the majority who will typically start a business with at least $100,000 on hand. But the numbers are staggering, along with other substantial information related to like the wealth gap, but small business really falls into that category. And if someone's able to grasp a government contract, a local contract, those are sometimes enormous amounts of cash. I wouldn't say cash.
It's not cash.
You're gonna get revenue. Something that can definitely help you hire staff, pay for your marketing, take your business to the next level. So,
and so Angel, of course we talk about real estate a lot. So when we're talking about, closing the wealth gap and having access to money and cash, you and I, one of our last conversations, we talked about the fact that there are some Black folks, sitting on equity in their homes and they don't know what to do with it, or they don't do anything with it. And they end up, passing the house on to someone who inherits it and does nothing with it, right? And so you have this equity sitting in homes that can be leveraged. So when we talk about leveraging, you can leverage the money that you have in your home to take $20K and go start a little business, right? Start that. And so we really I think that because of systematic racism and other, things, a lot of, there were oftentimes problems with the federal government, sort of tricking our people, many, many years ago, many decades ago. So Black folks still are not very comfortable even with taking out a loan on their house in order to go and leverage that to start a business because of all of the systematic racism and all the things they went through, and just for fear that they're going to lose their home. But I know, Angel, you and I have also talked about business credit. And so being able to build business credit, and Angel teaches she used to, at least, I don't know if she still does, but teaches, she used to teach you how to build your business credit. So there are opportunities. So you have to leverage your relationships. You have to leverage the equity you may have in your house, and you have to leverage, your business, your good credit score, right? To build business credit. So there are so many things. There are foundational things that our people need to learn in order to be able to build these businesses and not be afraid. And there's so much fear. I find so many people so afraid to take that plunge.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the most important piece for me that you said, Teray, is about leveraging relationships. Why I decided to do this was all about leveraging relationships and creating opportunities for people based on relationships that I had. I've always worked for government, so I knew these little inside secrets, worked for local government, state government, and we would give out contracts. And, the process is the process. But when I knew that we had a contract coming up and I knew a partner in the community that did good work, I'm going to email them, hey, this is going to open up in 30 days, 60 days, et cetera. So it's really all about leveraging relationships and creating those opportunities for people that they might not know existed.
So here's what my question would be for you, Shana. So how can someone start to create relationships? If they're a business owner, how do you start to create relationships with municipalities to even get your name out there? Like, of course, we have like, oh my God, a chamber of commerce, right?
Right,
So
right.
Local government organizations to show up to chamber of commerce. But how else can you get out there, to create real relationships in real time?
So the chamber is one, but also there are county meetings or city meetings. So attend those meetings. Oftentimes they may have issues on the docket that don't necessarily, revolve around business, but go in before the meeting starts, 10 minutes before, introducing yourself to your county officials, your city officials, et cetera. Staying after the meeting, volunteering at local events in your community. If there is a new park being open or a new library being open, that there is going to be some sort of elected official there, right? So volunteering, attending those events, attending the chamber events, making yourself just visible at different opportunities within your area, your region, to really just put yourself out there, and doing giving back in your community as well. So if there's a cleanup day or something like that, showing that your business isn't just about, self, but really about the community is also another way to stand out. Even if you don't have a brick and mortar business, you can still give back and create opportunities to make your business more visible.
Absolutely. So, Shana, for people who are watching and they want to learn more about the services that you offer, and maybe how you can help them, what are those services again?
Right. So the business startup, once you have a business, I can assist with obtaining grants, the government contract and the procurement process. The other piece, which we didn't talk about on the podcast and we might not talk about here as well, is, we mentioned, minority business, Black business, women business. So there are different certifications that your business can or should get to also put your application a little bit further in the review process if you are recognized as a minority-owned business or a women-owned business, or if you're a veteran-owned business or a service-disabled veteran business. So there are different certifications that you can apply for, and I assist with those application processes as well. You all were talking a little bit of, systematic racism. So by day, I wear a different hat. I'm a professor, and I have a law degree, and so I do trademarks and copyright and all of that. So those are really, the gist, trademarks, copyrights, the nonprofit startup. So getting your 501c3 going through that IRS process and then the government contracting.
So you do help with starting nonprofit organizations as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great to know.
She does, and we did not get a chance to even discuss like grant writing and all those amazing things for nonprofit.
I mean, she just dropped all this. I'm a lawyer, do trademark, copyright, grant.
I usually don't put that one out there, but when y'all were, talking the wealth gap, I'm like, yes. So I teach policy. So that is my space, policy conversations. I have a policy podcast. I'm talking.
We got like 17 minutes.
All day.
Like I've been cheated. Cheated because I'm like really not. So nonprofit organizations. So for the nonprofit organizations out there listening, what is it that, what opportunities exist for nonprofits? Are there the same opportunities, that are available to for-profit organizations? And are there any websites or any, different from what you've already mentioned?
So no. Yes and no. So the nonprofits are not eligible for the procurement process that I mentioned at the state and local level. But at the federal level, the grants process, I mentioned grants.gov. So they can, it's so complicated, but they can go to grants.gov and do some filters and search opportunities that are available for nonprofits, and then go through the grant writing process, which is different than the procurement process from a federal perspective. For example, we all know CDC, right? CDC is always giving out money to nonprofits. You don't have to be in the health space. They have a communications department. They have media. They have trainings that they do. And so CDC is a great example. The FDA is another great example. Department of Education at the federal level. And so all of these federal agencies will have information on their website, on grants.gov, related to nonprofit work. In your local, in your state, you would, the grants, this is where the relationship building comes in. Oftentimes it's not posted. You just got to know somebody. Unfortunately.
Okay.
That's
for the
world.
state grant.
Your network. Network is your net worth. That's what I say. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow.
And so many people really fail to realize, especially in business, people step away from corporate because they're tired of the corporate politics, or they're tired of the coworkers or whatever it is. And they say, I'm going to start my business. I don't have to deal with anyone. And that's something I try to stress to my clients all the time. You have to build a network. You never know when you'll need someone for your business, or maybe when someone will need you, and then everything will come full circle down the line. So you can't do everything on your own, but also like you don't have all of the information. You can't learn like the marketing aspect, the financial aspect, the money aspect. So it's like you have these resources and people who may be able to help you, pour into you, and you can pour into them. Oh man.
And I'll just, for the nonprofits out there, I don't want it to sound somber, but there are other grant opportunities, right? There are foundations, corporations, grantmakers, .org. So there are a tremendous amount of opportunities for grant dollars that's outside of the government. And so just because the government doesn't have that doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities available in your state.
And I just want to reiterate like what Angel was saying about a lot of people saying, well, I just want to leave my job and just be on my own, do my own thing. How important the network is, building the network. I think that while systematic racism does exist, I think that we also sort of paint ourselves into a corner, and we live in these boxes oftentimes as, Black folks. And it's so important that we get out, that we network, that we, I think there's some fear. I talked about fear earlier, but I really do think that there's some fear, and there's some fear of the unknown, of what that looks like when I go out and I'm with people that don't look like me and I don't know. And I often find myself in rooms like that. And in order to start to feel more comfortable, you got to get into those rooms more often.
Mm-hmm.
don't get comfortable staying out of the rooms. You have to get comfortable being in rooms with people who don't look like you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way really that you're going to grow, or your business is going to grow. Your business will grow at the rate at which you grow, and at the rate at which you're not, that you get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right.
And so I think that's a really, really big point, because a lot of us, too many of us, don't have large enough networks because of that fear of the unknown of, so I could talk about that forever, but I just wanted to mention that for whomever's listening and saying, well, I just want my business, but I don't like networking. I don't like going to this event and that event. Well, even when you're at work, if you don't network with your coworkers, you're not in on the conversations of who's getting promoted or what opportunities exist. So you have to network at every single level.
Yeah, I agree.
So you are right on the money. Right on the money, because so many people will, and I hate to say that it's minority people, but especially in the corporate world, sometimes what we tend to do is keep to ourselves, keep people out of our business. And I always say there's a way to go about building those relationships in corporate, but also like in your business. You don't have to tell someone your whole life story or everything that's happening in your life. So it's really like a give and take, but you have to choose what you're going to give.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you all brought up some great points, because for me, how I got to where I did was through networks and creating networks. And I looked out for people, looked out for business. So I was always the first on their mind. Like if there's an opportunity, if there's a training, a workshop, an opportunity to speak, I would, connect them, and they would always, oh, well, Shana at the state, let's see if she wants to come. And so when I stepped out on my own, I was able to create opportunities because I looked out for those nonprofits, those businesses, when I was in a seat of power at the state.
So you just brought up a whole nother layer to this, which is giving, right? Always being in a mindset of giving, as opposed to always, looking to receive. And the more you give, the more you get. And that's really what you're talking about. And I think that, so there are a couple of things we have to sort of get rid of. One is that fear of the unknown, of people who don't look like us, talk like us, act like us. And that's everybody. That's not just minorities. That's all of us. But then also being givers, and not thinking with a lack mentality, but knowing that there's abundance, and the more you give, the more you get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I always come from the perspective of what can I do? How can I, and the opportunities continue to come. When I left the state, I left based on a relationship that I had created with a large company. I saw that they had something. I reached out, and because I had built a great relationship with them, I was always sending them grants when I was at the state. They were like, yeah, we'll hire you. So it's really all about how you position yourself and the reputation that you build based on how you position yourself. And I know we on a whole nother conversation now, but maybe if there's some young people listening who are, entering the workforce or graduated from college or something like that, it's really the mindset of positioning yourself in a way so that opportunities can come back to you.
Well, I don't think we're on a whole different, journey here, because this piece, if people don't get this piece, that this is just so critical to getting the opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? Like this piece is so critical to gaining opportunities, to gaining access. I work for a broker, and my broker, they are of a different persuasion, and they want to invest in me. So they're like, oh, Teray, my broker was just telling me a couple of days ago, she was like, we need to get you into some organizations. Like, what can we get you into? Like, they want to pay for me to go to the Chamber of Commerce and pay to be at these different networking groups and everything because they know it grows them, but they want to invest in me. And it's funny because she texted me right before this conversation, Angel, and she was like, "We're at the winery. You need to." I was like, "Ugh."
You should have been at the winery, girl.
I know.
I was like, nah, I promised Angel. I said, we are co-moderating this conversation. So for me, even having this conversation with Angel is a way for me to give back, right? To give back and to help another business in any way that I can. But this is all part of it. I think this is all part of it.
You're right. And I was thinking back about one of my first, RFPs that I responded to. And to Angel's question earlier, if you don't have the experience, I didn't have anything to put on my capability statement. I had no past performance. But what I did, I asked for letters from other people I had worked with, who had businesses, and glowing letters were written, and it turned out to be positive. And I was like freaking out, like, oh, they want to shoot to see past performance, but I don't have anything. And it's the relationships that I had built that allowed me to say, hey, can I use your name, or can I use your business, your email to put on this application?
Absolutely. And so I know we're kind of nearing the end, and I am so sad that we got to end the conversation because, again, we didn't get too much into nonprofit. So I suppose anyone who's watching and you have a nonprofit, you're going to have to reach out to Shana and schedule a consult.
Yep.
So her website is here at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the description of wherever you're watching from, Facebook or on YouTube. What about social media? Where can people find you on social media, Shana?
Yeah, so Instagram, it's the same, Consult with Shana. Facebook, it's all the same, Consult with Shana. Twitter, Consult with Shana. But I think I said this in the podcast. My tweets are they're law stuff. They're legal policy. You might see me tweeting about the Supreme Court, stuff like that. So yeah, but I will say for the nonprofits really quickly, I think the biggest thing that I find is that a lot of people think they have a nonprofit and they don't. They didn't go all the way with the application.
What?
So they might have done it at the state level, right? And they went to the Secretary of State and they clicked nonprofit. They paid their $150 or however much, $400 in Massachusetts. But if you don't go to the IRS website and do all that stuff, then you don't have a nonprofit. Oh. Trust me, I've ran into so many people that they have a nonprofit. They have a nonprofit in their state, but it's not recognized, and you can't take donations, and you can't call yourself a charity. And I'll just say that.
Some people, Angel and I
don't even know what to say because I'm thinking of all the people who post on Facebook and say they have a nonprofit, and
I bet you if I go to the little website, they're not there.
This is what we talked about in our book Upfront. We talked about the fact that so many people, we gave examples of that, who thought they had a business, but they had never registered it.
Right.
So you can't sell a business that you never registered. So like my grandfather owned his business for like 40 years, but I think that there were a lot of missing pieces to the point where I don't know if he could have ever sold it. Right. And so just making sure that you're established properly, that you have your business registered with your state, that you get your, have your business entity, like just all of those things, that you get your tax ID number.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have businesses that they're doing out of their personal bank accounts.
Right. As well as so if you're in year 2 and year 3, you have to renew that registration every year. People forget that. And just keep on moving on. No.
And it's so important, especially when we talk about the contracting, because if you're going to register to be in the database, your business has to be registered. You have to submit tax documentations. I mean, Shana, you and I talked about just registering in itself to get into the system. And it took me all day. I was like, this is insane.
And they changed the process. So it takes longer than all day now.
It's a lengthy process.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you are trying to do this on the federal level and you have not gotten all of your ducks in a row, SAM.gov is not even going to let you go past question number 5 because they do a IRS validation. And if you ain't real, you ain't making it.
And then they're checking your DUNS number and everything. Yes. So you have to make sure you get all those things together. And we're going to do a quick plug for people who are watching and you don't have those things together. That's a little bit of what I do, working with businesses as far as planning. And as Teray mentioned, helping with business credit, but also helping to legitimize your business. And you can also pick up a copy of the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Upfront, and Entrepreneur's Quick Start Guide by Teray and myself. Gosh, this is like such a good conversation, and I don't want it to end. But I don't want people to just keep on watching because we're not gonna let you drop any more free gems.
No, but I'll just say we can wrap it up. I'll just say, if you're ready to get started, go see Angel, and then once you see Angel, come on over to me, and I'll help you figure out the next phases. Or if you already exist and you are thinking about going to the next level with procurement, or if you have a nonprofit and you want to make sure that your name, another nonprofit doesn't have your name,
right?
Or you want to get some grants, there are ways that we can talk through and work through those processes.
Awesome. Well, this is a great conversation. Thank you again.
Thank you guys
for putting this together, and thank you, Shana, for showing up and showing out.
Thank you. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast episode, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on all podcasting platforms or whichever platform of your choice. Milestones, Money, and Motivation. Yes. Listen to Shana's episode. It was actually the first episode of season 2 with a guest. The first episode with a guest of season 2. So listen in, catch all those gems, have your notepad ready. And again, if you're watching the replay, leave us some comments. Follow us online, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.